watching the conversation right here on Lagos Television. The conversation this morning is very simple, and that is the federal government directive to traders to crash food prices. Don't forget, just last week, the head of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission during the stakeholders meeting told that, look, there's this arbitrary price increase of goods and services, and for that reason, it's given them leeway for a particular couple of weeks for them to change their mind and review the prices downwards. But of course, some stakeholders are saying this is a form of intimidation. That's according to the CPPE, that's another forum for the private sector-led initiative, talking about this. But don't forget, like over the years, the conversation is, look, so many people take advantage of Nigerians, and the whole essence of the FCCPC is to ensure that there is some form of balance or equilibrium to ensure that Nigerians aren't shortchanged. Well, I'm not an expert in this conversation. We've got someone who has been doing this for so many years, and if you've paid attention to Lagos Television, she's always been here to explain things as she sees fit. Of course, make welcome the member of the CCPT Southwest and, of course, Consumer Protection Advocate. It's a pleasure to have you join us, Shola Salako Ajulo. It's a pleasure to have you join us, ma'am.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's start this conversation perhaps in a more convivial, since we're in a very convivial atmosphere now. Would you say, considering the inflation we've seen, federal government is concerned, and on that premise is issuing this statement, look, please bring down the prices of goods, because we've seen that it is irrational and it's bringing untold hardship on Nigerians. Do you agree?
Of course, I agree with that, but it's deeper than that, okay? What we all need to understand is that in this particular trade sector, like in many other sectors, there are regulators in there. And the job of the regulator is to monitor the market and try and ensure that there is a fair and equilibrium marketplace for everybody, both for the manufacturer, for the reseller, and for the consumer. We have always been a lopsided trade environment in Nigeria. Usually, trade focuses only on the supply side, not on the demand side. And maybe because of a lot of other economic issues that we
Variables,
have, there's always been a tendency for the suppliers to exploit the consumers right. So the essence of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission is a regulator set up by law to monitor that market and ensure as much fairness as there needs to be. So the EVC, Mr. Tunji Bello, was only doing his job. His job is to look at the marketplace, see what looks like distortions, and through dialogue, through enforcement, through all kinds of tools that they have, try to restore the equilibrium. So that's what that directive is like. I should remind Nigerians that the FCCPA, that's the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018, actually prohibits arbitrary pricing. It's against the law. And it gives the Commission various tools that they can use to correct such situations when they find it. Now, the Nigerian situation is peculiar because it's normal for people to just put prices. I mean, if you check the way pricing is done in Nigeria, it defies every logic. People just take a look at you. That's why when you go to the marketplace, there's no price, no tag. They just look at you and think you can afford something. And
my wife don't take me to the market.
So this is what we're trying to, and we're trying to correct that. That the law also says everybody must put a tag. Anything you put out for sale must have a price tag. So even if I want to negotiate, I will know I'm starting from a basis. Not that you tell me what price comes to your mind at any given time. So we still have a lot of that distortion in the marketplace. Then the inflation, came in.
Okay.
Let me get to the bottom of this thing so that you can now take it from there. So the inflation, the removal of fuel subsidy, the exchange rate, all of these things just hit the market at the same time and caused a very sharp expected increase. Now, the problem that we found as practitioners in the sector is that when you actually look at the percentage increase of the variables that have affected that thing and the actual price that consumers are paying, there's disparity.
Huge one.
That's where the gouging thing comes in, which is what the EVC was trying to say. So he's not commanding everybody to just crash their pricing irrespective of their challenges. No. I think what he's saying is ensure that you are only pricing as commensurate with the inflation, not with your greed.
Okay.
That's the point.
I want you to speak to what the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise said. The DG of the enterprise is here saying that Mr. Tuji Bello is not focusing on what the major duty of what the commission should be.
Which is?
And is here saying that the FCCPC appear to be transforming into a price control agency rather than fulfilling its role as a consumer protection body.
With all due respect to Mr. Mudashiru,
Dr. Muda Yusuf.
Dr. Muda Yusuf, of course, I think I forgot his name, but I do know him. Dr. Muda Yusuf, he's just doing what any private sector will do when government is insisting on enforcement. Because, number one, he does not know that this law, we, including the private sector and CSOs, that's called civil societies like ours, we were the proponents, we were the ones who supported and passed this bill, this act, into law. And all these checks and balances were put in this act. So it should tell Nigerians one thing that the EVC has done that is outside of the act that set the commission up. So we know that those laws there, but Nigerians don't want any enforcement. They want you to leave them to do anything they like. The private sector, we all understand, even consumers understand that with the kind of variables that have hit the marketplace, things will be more expensive, but not at the rate at which we have seen it. We've seen a whole lot of people just taking advantage of that environment of price increase to now add more money to it, so that when you say, this is too expensive, they say, it's because of fuel, it's because of
dollars.
Even things that doesn't concern dollar. So, you know, it's, we should all be conscientious of the fact that as Nigerians, every one of us have a role to play in this. Government has different tools to address these things. They are using fiscal tools. They are using monetary tools. They are using all kinds of tools to try and bring this in. But if the marketplace itself is filled with unpatriotic Nigerians who just want to take advantage of their fellow Nigerian because they just want to make money. Look, let me give you one thing. I just wrote an article. I'm hoping it's going to come out this week. It just coincides with the fact that this happened, because I written it like a few days before the announcement. The issue about pricing, what we are seeing in Nigeria is that sellers are doing what we call replacement. They are using the replacement pricing model.
How does that work?
In this environment, and I'll tell you how it works. Normal pricing is cost plus profit. I read all my costs, I add a little profit to it, and then I put it to the market and sell. Now, replacement pricing is, I have 10 mugs on my shelf or in stock, okay? And the cost was 10 naira. My profit is 4 naira, so I was selling at 14 naira. Then inflation hits. And as soon as fuel goes up, dollar goes out of the way, I know that to replace this cost will not be 10 naira anymore. It's going to be 30 naira. And so what Nigerian sellers do is immediately that announcement goes, they just change this price to 30 naira.
Even with the old stock?
Yes.
Yes.
This is where the problem is. They change this price to 30 naira. And when you ask them, no, they won't do it selling at 30. They'll 30 plus their profit.
Plus profit, they do 34, 35.
Yes, or 35 plus the profit. Or some will even do 40, which is where gouging comes in because they know I can justify the increase by what has happened, so I can increase anyhow. Now, you should not be, and that's when you look at our, for economists, when you look at our inflation charts,
Right.
if you look at our inflation chart, usually inflation chart goes like smoothly up like this over a period of time. When inflation hits any market, it shouldn't show up until about 3 months when they start to track that market. In Nigeria, it shows up in 2 minutes. So what happens is that the consumer is not even given an opportunity
the
to
shock.
plan. The shock hits the consumer like that. Because when you say inflation is, we start to see gradually, so you can plan.
If you go with this gouging that you mentioned, that means every segment of the market is affected because fuel situation is there. You have marketers that have old stock. They just had a wind or something. They keep the stock and wait until when people are desperate.
Until we stop that, the market in Nigeria will never be fair. It will always be distorted, and consumers will always be at the receiving end. You know what usually happens? What they do is, what you are doing when you do this, is that you are making the consumer an investor in your business. Because you now make the consumer provide additional capital for you to be in business. Now, if I'm investing in your business, there should be something I'm getting back. You should pay me dividend. But in Nigeria, the consumer is not getting any dividend. So you make me pay you additional capital, you make me pay you profits, and I go away with less money in my own pocket because you have taken almost everything off from me. So if we don't get to the point where all of us are sincere and we start to talk about what needs to be done, we are not going to have a market that will be fair for everybody. And this is what FCCPC, the FCCPC EVC is trying to say. Look, we have tools in which you can check some of this. We may not be able to check all of it, but so you should fold his hands and say because all the other tools are not yet working, then they should not use this one.
Okay. Mr. Chinyere cited an instance of a particular blender during that stakeholders meeting, which was purchased at the rate of $89, about 244. And somewhere here in Victoria Island, someone was selling it for 944,000 naira. What kind of engagement do you think the FCCPC should begin to have now to at least checkmate all of these people?
Well, the first thing, they're doing the things that they need to do. Number one, dialogue. Call them to the table and talk to them. Everybody who was in that table, they will raise their issues, yes. There are a lot, and their issues are genuine. Please let it not be said that I am saying this all their fault. It really is not. Their issues are genuine. Things are really difficult for anybody who's doing business in Nigeria right now. But that does not mean you should now make it even worse for the consumer, because you also forget that you are also a consumer. If you just focus on maximizing whatever it is you can make from here, that money, somebody else also will do the same, waiting for you to take it from you. And that's why inflation will keep going. And if we are not careful, hyperinflation in Nigeria because of this. Because now, workers are demanding for more wages because they need to be able to meet all this excess in pricing. And if there's more wages, that means there's more money. Before you know it, we have hyperinflation. Now we cannot control this economy. So we can tank the economy ourselves if we are not careful. That's why this is important.
Talking about tanking, I'm sure Bimpe has a question.
I wanted her to finish what she was saying. She was talking about traders, sellers, that increase prices of their goods, almost immediately. And then when you ask them, she didn't finish it. I wanted her to finish it. I think something else came to her mind. I wanted her to finish that. When you now ask them why they do that, they tell you something.
They tell you fuel has increased. Well, it is true that fuel has increased. But that fuel that increased is supposed to impact your next stock, not the one that is on your shelf. So by insisting that because fuel has increased, you must start pricing now, you are going to make extra profit on that one. Do you understand? And then you don't need to go look for capital anymore to stay in business because you have made the consumer give you capital. So we are now investors in people's businesses and we're not getting returns on it.
And that's what actually worries me. I know you're not holding brief for FCCPC here,
No,
but I see a situation where, because I see this all the time, and sometimes I use my logic when I go and say, this shouldn't have increased now. We're still even talking about it. It hasn't been implemented yet. You have a situation where everything just goes up. And I'm looking at this particular tire has been in your shelf for a very long time. You couldn't have sold everything before import waiver or immigration increases their import duty on some matter. So you have a situation where oftentimes you have nobody speaks for them. But there's a caveat though. FCCPC is not a manufacturer. It's just standing there. Manufacturers in this country go through a lot.
True.
From price, from distortions in policy and arbitrary, just out of the blues, a statement, a comment like the president did distorts everything.
That shouldn't have happened. Not that the president shouldn't have said what it was. There's no time. Whether he said it on that day or he said it 6 months later, he would have still said it. So that was something that was. But you see, even when he said it, what should happen is that the market should now begin a process to start preparing for that subsidy removal, not instantly reflecting the impact of that subsidy.
But I guess that's where my question, you've just helped me with my question. Knowing how peculiar our market is, shouldn't that be a reason why you do in such a way that it won't affect the market immediately? To be subtle, to be more intentional, and more deliberate with stakeholders involved. Nigerians' biggest problems. We are our own biggest problems. No matter how slow government tries to ease these situations into place, the bottom line here is that because we already have a mentality of taking advantage of one another, we don't have a mentality of caring for everybody. There are people who are in this marketplace who do the right thing. Bovas, whatever, for instance, anytime such things happen, they will wait and sell their stock at the price that they bought the stock before they increase on the next stock. That is the normal progression in any sane marketplace. Nigeria is not a sane marketplace. Our market is not manned by people who have any conscience or have any sense of responsibility to others. Now, and it's not just their fault. The major people who are the cause of this problem here are the banks. Because what should happen in the normal environment, if you need to do business, you approach a bank. I need a loan. This is the business. This is whatever. And they advance you money. So if, for instance, by the time I finish selling my old stock, I now need 20 naira more to be able to go to the market to buy another one. What I should do is walk into a bank, say, this is my stock, this is what I've sold, this is how I do my market, give them a good whatever. And that. So when you go to market and buy, you will now be putting it on your shelf at the new price with the cost of the money from the, which will make it go a little bit. But it's not me, the customer, who is going to have the capital. So what happens in Nigeria markets is that as soon as I open shop, I'm expecting that my customers are the ones who will keep me in business. So any cost, any stress, anything that I have, I just pass it on to them. Trucks also don't have the capacity. Perhaps that's why there's recapitalization. The bank, because as soon as this thing happens, they increase your interest. They say, of course, the MPC has increased the rate.
That is a function of inflation. You see, these things is a vicious cycle. It's a function of inflation. If these people didn't hit the market the way they did, inflation may not be this steep. Then that means interest rate may not be this high because they have to use interest rates to rein in inflation. So if we want to stop, we don't want all these things to go mad like this. Let the people who are doing, let us be sincere. I bought this stock at 10 naira. I will finish selling it at 12 naira that I was putting it out. And then when I'm done, what I have left, can it still buy 10 of it? No, it can only buy 5. Do I want to buy 10? Then I go and source for additional capital. And that's how cost of, the consumers are made to carry the burden for everything. We pay the cost of funds, we pay the cost, we literally keep you in business.
Okay.
And our own income is shrinking. So how do we manage a market like that?
Okay, we are already in the mess, whether we like
Yes.
it or not. So, aside from this engagement by the FCCPC, what else should be done to protect the consumers from being exploited?
Awareness.
Because it's a free for all.
Awareness. That's number one. Number two, options. That's why we try to promote competition as much as possible. Look at what Lagos State is doing. And I give kudos to Governor Sanwo-Olu in the interventions in the interest of full disclosure. I am on the governor's committee. Yes, there's a special committee for this palliative thing. Look at that beautiful idea that the government had, which we helped to oversee to make sure it was being implemented. There are different ways government can intervene. There are some level of interventions government can do, like what Governor Sanwo-Olu has done. Now, what it has done is that because people are now trooping to those 25% Onje-Eko markets to get the people who have the stock in regular markets and the prices are still high, they will sit down and adjust the price and say, I've not sold everything. Everybody has gone to Onje-Eko market. So let me bring my price down a bit. Do you understand? So there are different creative ways that government can use to help rein in these excesses.
And protect the consumers.
Yes, but we cannot take enforcement off the table, because sometimes the language that some Nigerians understand is false. I am in full support of that, though I shouldn't be saying that.
That is one. That is one way of protecting the consumer.
Yes.
What are the other ways?
Awareness. Create awareness. That's number one. Being able to, we know one of the things that we don't have in Nigeria is some kind of price checks. That's another way to do it. If we can set up platforms where there are regular price checks of how much each item costs in 20 markets, because don't forget, the fact that it's expensive near you doesn't mean it's expensive in Ayobo. Okay? So if we have a way in which we can aggregate pricing and tell people, in this market, this is how much it is, in this market, this is how much it is, it helps people to go in the direction of where...
Should we set up a market board?
Market board is one of it. In fact, it's in my article that's going to be published. I'm asking the president, from the minute when he started campaigning, he promised us market boards. These are the times when we need him to establish those market boards. And what the market boards do is they help to, they intervene at the level of, in the value chain, the supply value chain. Because what you find is that one of the reasons why, especially food items, are more expensive in cities like Nigeria, like Lagos or Abuja and all that, is that between the farm and the markets, there are like 10 middlemen who are adding their own rent on it. So with market boards can actually do the bulk purchasing and then direct to market. That way, it cuts down on some of those things. Government can also work with transport, the people who do food transportation. They can give some kind of subsidy on their fuel if they want. You see, the challenge that government usually has with this, that's why I'm telling you, no matter how fantastic you are in Nigeria, somebody will
because if you do, they will be looking for the subsidy and they may not even get the products.
They will not pass to the consumer. Look at what President Tinubu has done. At least as we speak now, there's a full suspension on tariff for
rice,
food importation.
Yes.
I mean, for the next 6 months. Has it affected the price of rice in the marketplace? No, that time they will tell you this is old stock. That's when they will remember that it's old stock, that the new stock they have bought has not come. But when they want to increase price when their old stock is, that one is immediate. But now they say, we will wait until 6 months because that's when the new stock will come in. So we are not sincere. We are not sincere. So
okay, talking about sincerity, I know you're still talking because I'm still going to talk about the logjam the FCCPC can face sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just want to talk on behalf of a consumer. I personally, like 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, I ordered for a shoe online. The man said, oh, it is 38,000 naira. Or payment validates order or delivery. So I paid. I was waiting for, I said, will I get it on so day? A week after. I was waiting. I said, am I still getting it? Message, you are getting it. A day after the site, I said, I didn't get my shoe. And I said, but I've sent it to you. And I said, you sent my shoe to me, But I didn't give you my address in the first place. How come I'm getting shoe that I have never, I didn't get delivery of the shoe? And I said, no, somebody else ordered for the same shoe and they delivered to Agege. And I said, okay, I don't want the shoe again. Give me my money. So this is what he decided to do. After about 4 days of back and forth, he sent me 10,000 naira out of my 38,000. Then after a week or about 1.5 weeks, he sent me 8,000 naira. Yeah, I'm just telling you, this real life story. So I now said, at what point will I get the balance? So, because when I was sending the money to you, I said it in bulk. Now you are helping me dismay. So I personally, I can withstand the shock of someone just meddling with my... How do Nigerians deal with so many people?
You should be
like
happy
this?
that you even got your money back. I paid somebody online that he wanted to supply me snail. As soon as he collected my money, he blocked me. And we still haven't found him back till now. But, okay, let me say 2 things.
So how do Nigerians deal with so many people milking them?
Awareness. It is sad that as a people, we have normalized fraud as a means of income. It's very sad. And that is a societal issue that we need to address on a much larger scale. But when it comes to consumer protection, number one, you are in the best state in Nigeria. Permit me to be the one saying that, though I'm a Lagosian, I know, I'm an indigene, I'm an economy. but apart from that, Lagos State is the only state I'm aware of. There are 1 or 2, I think Kano also has an agency, a consumer protection agency. But most Nigerian states don't have consumer protection agencies. Lagos is not one of those. Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency is very active and very impactful. Just report this matter to them. They will sort that guy out. That I can tell you, because I have seen instances of them being able to help Nigerians get their rights back, get redress. But apart from that, I also want to advise Nigerians. This is in a book I just wrote on how you can protect yourself. You are your first line of protection in consumer protection right now. Nigeria is not up to the point where government can fully protect you. We're still working towards it. So you have to protect yourself.
How?
One, when you're buying things online, avoid buying anything that does not agree on payment on delivery.
Okay. From
people you don't trust, you don't know. If it's somebody you've done business with before, that trust has been established, you know where they are. Because online, they're faceless. You cannot trace them.
And sometimes what they displayed is not what they...
It's not what they are going to send to
at the end
you.
of the day.
So all of that is against the law. And
oh, it's against the law?
It is. It's against the law. You people should pick up this law. Okay. I think what you should do is you should buy my book. Because in that book, I have explained all your rights to you. So you know what you are protected by. I mean, what the law protects you from. It's against the law for you to advertise something that's misleading advertising. You can go to jail if it is a big company. You can be fined and all that. It's against the law. So, but until the law is enforced, is able to be enforced, because we're still struggling with enforcement. Until we are able to do that, you need to protect yourself. Make sure that you do not pay to anybody. Anyone who tells you, if you don't pay me, I cannot give you the problem. Let him keep the thing now. Shebi is the one who's trying to sell.
Okay,
if he's genuine.
I'm sorry. How about some of our banks? There was a particular bank. I was
Wait, don't go to bank, because that bank matter. We will spend a whole new program on banks. But this one, let's finish this online thing, because a whole lot of Nigerians are actually going through this. They are being scammed every day.
Swindled, yeah.
Online, every day. It's alarming. I'm working with a team of professionals right now to come up with a way in which we can safeguard this. We're still working on it. I pray that we're able to take it to the last level, because it involves many regulators. It involves the banks, there's the central bank, it involves FCCPC, it involves NCC, it involves all these people. So we're trying to pull together a coalition to do something about that. But until then, please, when you are buying things online from vendors you don't know, refuse to pay until they deliver. Payment on delivery or nothing. That thing is not going to keep you alive, so it's not an essential to you. So if you cannot do payment on delivery, go and buy somewhere else. Once we all agree to do that, we force them to start accepting payment on delivery, and that protects us. So that's one. But if you still fall into this kind of trap, in spite of that, Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency is the place to go, and they would hunt that person down for you, and you will get your money back. But until then, please try to protect yourself online. Don't believe everything you see online. No matter how beautiful, how right they explain it, how everything, don't believe it. Check and check. You know what I do? If I see something online and it looks very interesting and very true, I go to Google and say, I mention the name of that thing and say scam. Just put the conversation scam. If there's been any scam on that product or person, it will pop up. So do those back checks. Then look at endorsements. Who is endorsing it? Is that person trustworthy? Is that person somebody you can...
But we see some reviews that are artificial.
That's another issue.
I mean,
So
because I know some people can just
AI,
back up reading.
no, AI is done us a lot of bad, but it can also help you. So you could check. You could check. If, for instance, you say somebody has reviewed this, and put the person name and say, this person reviews this, you will see if it's not the person, because he may have come up and say, I'm not the one who did this.
Okay.
So you'll be able to... so just don't believe everything you see. Please, don't believe everything you see.
Okay.
Cross-check.
I'm interested in that banking. Yeah. I was meant to transfer a particular sum of money to someone outside the country. Then I filled the form in the bank, and what they told me was it's going to get there in 2 or 3 days. And after 5 days, nothing happened. Then I went back, and they started explaining what is not to me.
Have they given you back your money?
I collected my money back, but I felt I should have been at least compensated for the delay in the transactions and everything.
Okay.
Yes, because they infringe on my rights.
Actually,
Am I wrong?
Actually, do you know that the tribunal where I worked had actually given a judgment, though it is in appeal now, but we gave a judgment against the bank who failed to complete a transfer that a consumer asked. The consumer walked into a form, instant transfer from this account in this bank to this account in another bank, his own account, but in another bank. He filled it out. They said, okay, fine, it was an instant transfer thing. By the time he went home, no transfer was done. He didn't see anything for the whole day. He kept calling, no. So he came back the next day. That's 24 hours. Came back the next day, by which time they now reversed and said the transaction failed. So he fills it again. This was on a Friday. He now fills it again on that Friday and says, do the same thing. Transfer this amount of money to this account. And they took it from him. That transaction failed again. They now didn't refund his money until Monday. And the man now said he was supposed to pay his children's school fees over the weekend. The children were going to school. So he did it on Thursday, he did it on Friday. They had to go to school at the weekend. So he said he went to borrow money to take it. So he now wrote them and said, you embarrassed me by not completing my transaction. You violated my right. And they said they've not violated the right and left it. So he sued them to the tribunal. When we reviewed the case, we actually found the bank liable for violating their fiduciary duty to him. And we fined them 120 million.
Wow.
Yes. They
appealed the case?
Yeah, yes, it's on appeal now. But we found that, and it's a court of record. So that means it stands until the appeal says...
You can vacate the order.
Yes.
Okay, FC...
So
okay.
you may, if you feel you are strong, because look,
120 million
Take them to court.
you have to understand that it's a service and it's also a contract. That's one thing most Nigerians don't understand. Every sale, if I give you money for anything, is a contract. I am entering into a contract with you. You have your own side of the contract to fulfill, I have mine. Now, what usually happens is that when I don't fulfill my side of the contract, you penalize me. That's what they do.
Yeah.
But when they don't fulfill their side of the contract, they say you don't have any rights. Yeah. And that's what the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act has corrected now. So now you now have rights. If they don't fulfill their own side of the contract, you have things to do to be able to get redress.
Awareness is key.
Plus all the arbitrary charges banks do. I guess we just have to bring you back to have that conversation.
No, you see, the bank one, we would actually have to have a session because there was a period in this station, if you remember, that we used to hold the Lagos Consumer Protection, Lagos Consumer Forum, where we bring banks and all these people to come and talk, every sector, to talk about what the issues are. Maybe we should revive it because people need awareness.
I guess when you come next time, we'll talk about some of this double consumer protection agency. Like for the airlines, you have NCAA saddled with the responsibility of protecting consumers. Then you have FCCPC who's tried to jump into the fray.
No.
Okay.
Let me correct that. Let's correct it.
Okay.
Let's correct it. In consumer protection in Nigeria, we have structures. Okay? You should have local government structures, you should have state structures, you should have federal structures, because it cuts across the three spheres. Now, in all sectors, what has happened is that because Nigeria's consumer protection structure is trying to play catch up, we already established all these sector regulators before we established a regulator to take care of consumer protection. So when they were establishing NCAA and all these other people, they put consumer protection under them at that time because there was not a omnibus body that is supposed to protect it. So now that FCCP has come, what the law says is that we need the sector regulator will still keep doing consumer protection up to a point. But if there is,
I guess we have to bring you back.
I need to finish this conversation. Just this last one. If there is a conflict in that regulation, FCCPC is the apex Nigerian consumer protection agency.
That settles it.
So they are not jumping into anything. They can operate in any sector.
Okay.
That's where I want to end.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Shola Salako Ajulo, consumer protection advocate and member CCPT Southwest. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you.
I can't wait to have this conversation again because it touches on virtually everyone in this country. We'll take a short break. Our guest is ready. So the Conversation Lagos is standing by. Don't go anywhere.